Happy holidays, Marc Raimondi for ESPN, joined today by former UFC bantamweight champion Cody Garbrandt, who's coming off a really big win over Brian Kelleher just a few days ago at UFC 296 in Las Vegas. Cody, we spoke before that fight, and one of the things that I said in the interview was you seem so confident in your preparation. And we've talked, how many times have we talked before? You fight a million times, and there was something different about you that week, and you felt really good about your preparation in Las Vegas under, Dewey Cooper and others. Tell me about how you felt before that fight and what worked so well in the fight.
This camp, the confidence was there because the work was being done. I worked with Dewey in the past, my last fight, not this previous fight for 296. So incorporated just, a team for me that was able to, kind of put me first. Alex Perez was a great addition. He worked with me last camp. He moved to Vegas as well. He splits time between California and Vegas. So it's been nice to just work with him, drill, the techno aspect of things, add on. And he's a great training partner. He shows up each time, for the wrestling, the grappling, the sparring. Anytime I needed him, Alex was there to help out, and also conduct a camp for me to where I'd have to worry about, hey, make sure we're doing X, Y, and Z. Had that covered, so I could just focus on my training, making sure that just the time to be there and work hard. Mateus Nakao was my striking coach for this camp, and he was from Nova Now, so he's had so many years of learning at the Nova Now, from the professor Andre and Jose. So it was great for him, and just the way he moves. He's my size, so he's fought MMA, he's done kickboxing, he's done it all. So being able to have that guy where you're in there doing pads, but also he might take a wrestling shot on you, so it keeps you, just alert at all times, and just his teaching and his learnings through Inovi and now and what he's brought to me, and we kind of just worked on things that I like to do, and things that best fit me. Every time I would spar or do pads, he would always write notes down, and we would collab. Like, hey, I like a little bit more of this, maybe add some of this, take away this. We just had a kind of co-opt a training camp, and obviously, Chase Pammy, he runs my wrestling, all that. So just a great camp. I feel like moving to the UFC performances full time, I was there, did all my camp. They did all my testing, VO2 testing, my energy systems, my diagnostics, to where it's all in-house. I work with the strength and conditioning, the nutritionists, the physical therapists, the doctors there. It's just everyone talks to each other, it communicates well with, what works best for me. And I think that putting myself first and just make sure I'm checking off all the check boxes was what ultimately kept me healthy all camp, but also confident that I was able to push and grind the way that I needed to in preparation for this fight.
It was a first round knockout, really a big right hand is what started the finish. Your first knockout since 2023. Tell me about that right hand and the setup for it. Is that something that you guys worked on? Because it was a very nice setup and obviously a very nice execution as well.
Yeah, we knew. I don't really watch tape on my opponents too much. I let my coaches do that and then kind of develop a game plan and what I'm doing in sparring, what will work. So I try to bring a lot of, um, call them stablemates to train and spar that give me the best look for Brian and what Brian does. We try to figure out his best weapons of offense, defense, what he does well, what he doesn't do so well. And really, they broke him down. Alex was watching, film on Brian so many times, when he's running. So it's great to have those guys look at them, look at him, see what he does, and then incorporate that for my training and what I do good at. So yeah, we knew like he was, he threw a lot of hooks, came in with his heads down, doesn't set up a lot of his kicks, but they land and they're good, especially his teeps. So we knew that all along was coming, and to just go inside, make sure my head's off the line, don't be staying too tall in the pocket, make sure I was having a high guard inside there with someone that kind of just puts their head down and throws hooks and comes forward. So we were well prepared. We knew what we needed to do, stay sharp defensively, get my offense going early, and stay on them. And that's what I was able to do that.
I'm glad you mentioned some of the defense that you guys have prepared for Kelleher, because during that kind of like losing streak, kind of that like losing stretch that you had, you only lost one decision, right? You were in every other fight you got caught, which is like a double-edged sword. It's right. Okay, you got caught. He didn't beat me for 3 rounds or 5 rounds. He caught me, right? How much have you shorn up, I guess, that defense, and what are you doing differently now compared to some of the fights during that stretch of time?
I think I go back to those fights and where I was at mentally, sometimes physically, definitely emotionally getting those fights. I didn't care what happened. You know what I mean? I care less the outcome. Win, awesome. You lose, okay. I was just not, the best word for it. Just wasn't in there. I wasn't engaged in what I needed to do inside the octagon. It was hard for me to, you know, put away the things that I didn't need to be thinking about inside there. That's when everything comes out. Your fears, your dreams, your everything inside that octagon. Why a man's across from you, trying to steal everything from you. There's just so many emotions that are inside that octagon leading up to it. So it's all on full display, and you feel it. You feel it, that mental battle inside your head that you need to, get your head off of the lane. You need to throw more jabs. You need to, push harder. In the second, third round. All those things come to light. And for me, mentally, I wasn't engaged in what I needed to be inside the octagon. So it's like, all right, go ahead and get into a fire. May the best man win. And it sucks that I was like that, but I'm so happy and glad that I was able to, refine the love and passion, that I had for the sport. It wasn't because I was losing, it was because I just didn't want to be in there. I wasn't happy with what was going on the outside of my life, inside. It was hard to, like I said, when you get in the octagon, that full display of emotion in there. You can get ready for a fight all you want and feel like, oh, you feel great, and talk to yourself inside your head, like leading up to the fight. But ultimately, if you don't have, in the middle, your mental fortitude right inside there to go and do what you need to do, get the job done against another adversary that's believes that he's the baddest man in the world and he's taking it, wants to take it from you. It's not the best place to be in. So really, I feel like when I was on a little skid or was in those mental battles, I was looking for something just to change. I couldn't always wake up from a dream that wasn't happening. But ultimately I had to, be in the driver's seat, and I knew what I needed to do. And that's go seek help, figure out what's going on. And since I moved out to Vegas, and started working with the UFC Performance Institute, Micah, my sports therapist, really has helped a lot. I never knew how to deal with a lot of the emotions or the mental things that we just hold on to. It doesn't serve us any purpose. It doesn't help us out. So just knowing, in those sessions, learning who I was, what I needed to do, it's been great. I think being consistent with that, as we go in the gym 3-4 times a day, for all year long, especially in fight camp, 10 weeks is just driven towards that. And we're always constantly working on our bodies, make our bodies better. But ultimately, like, your mind is what controls everything. So being able to have control of that and, thinking outside the box is help. I'm very grateful and thankful that I was able to get that corrected.
So you said the Micah is the UFC PI's sports psychologist, I guess.
Yes.
What's his or her last name? Micah?
Oh, I always butcher. That's why I always say Micah, and it's lit. I'm sure he played in MLB. It's Litton.
I can look it up. It's not
Yeah, look,
controversial, but
sorry, yeah,
I
I'm
just wanted
sorry,
to
yeah.
make sure. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I always never say I need to ask him. I always see it, but I'm just not good with last names like that. But yeah, phenomenal. He's a great guy. He's been to the highest level in MLB at a young age. And him and his wife are actually therapists as well. So it's nice to get that learning from him. And then to put it into everyday life, not even just my career based.
It's interesting to hear you say that, because I know there is a little bit of a stigma, right, against talking about your mental health, talking about going to see a therapist or a psychologist. But I feel like it is the sport that you guys are in, that you do, is so intense, not just physically, but on like you just said, on every level. You're concentrating on, maybe you get 2 or 3 fights a year if you're lucky. Sometimes you only get one, and you need to focus all of your mental, emotional, physical power into a training camp for that one opportunity. And if things don't go right, it can be shattering. And one of the reasons why I wanted to ask you a little bit more about this is Alexander Volkanovski came out recently and talked about his own mental health and how, he feels like if he doesn't have a fight booked on the schedule, he doesn't know what to do with himself. It's like he goes a little a little mad or a little, anxiety and
It's
nerves.
anxiety, depression, like all that stuff comes through. Like even after a fight for me, like the next few days should be just good. I'm thankful, gratitude. I get to be able to come home and see my family. But even after that, I still get like high anxiety because it's like I've literally just spent my whole, last 10 to 12 weeks, routine of what I was doing. So it's like after the fight, you got to take some time off, let your body heal. Not necessarily. Some people go right back to training. That's why, because it's like you never shut your mind off. But for me, the body needs it. I have this week off where I'll come back home to see my family in Ohio. But yeah, it's tough. It's constantly, up and down battle, mental battle, anxiety. Like I don't know too many people's jobs out there in the world that when they go to work, they're driving to work, that they pray and hope that they don't get injured, inside of training. That's just to train. This is just to get to the fight, and outside, once you get in the fight, hopefully nothing brutally bad happens inside the, octagon. You get to come home and enjoy that little bit of downtime you had before, you get back to training. So it's a constant mental battle, and I salute Volk for speaking out about that. I think more need to um, you know be outspoken about what they're going through. To help the younger generation understand it's okay to have these feelings. It's okay to sometimes have those demons of doubts, but it's what you do. It's what you do and how you get through those mental battles is what's going to make you a champion. And I think more and more fighters need to seek that kind of mental help because the sport doesn't last forever. We always can't be doing what we love to do. Hopefully we can all, have great careers and go into different endeavors that motivate us and drive us to, have that same kind of feel to get up every day and work towards a goal that you want to have. But, mentally it's, gearing you ready for the, rest of your life. And I think fighting is the highest of highs and lowest of lows, just like some people's life. You're never going to have the greatest days. You're never going to have the worst days. I think about finding balance in both life and career. So I think that's why fighting is such a roller coaster. But if you look at it, it's the same with life. Life's the same way. Life's always keeping you on your toes, keeping you, filled with the unknown. You don't know what's going to happen when you drive down the street. To get some coffee. Same thing with the going in the octagon, preparing for the fight. You don't know what's going to go on inside there. That's what I think is so for me, it's so intoxicating for me to go in there and to test that, to put yourself in those positions where you're training, you're devoting yourself, your time, to go in there and face another adversary that believes the same thing. So it's unknown until it's done. It's like you understand.
You had obviously your share of injuries over the last 2 years too, some of them well documented. But if you could point to one thing that kind of resulted in those losses during that period of time, was it more mental, would you say, or was it more physical, or maybe a combination of both?
Definitely, I think obviously if you're sick or run down or injured, that plays a huge part in your mental side. So if you're injured all the time, it's hard to be positive. It's hard, that's what it's like. People that go through these cancers and leukemia and these treatments and radiation that have a smile on their face and that are, fighting it, like understanding that they're so optimistic and filled with gratitude. I truly just my heart and everything goes out to them because they just take it with, they're such real warriors. So when you're getting those injuries and those little setbacks, it's a mental battle. It's definitely a mental battle going in there and rebuilding yourself, and to be able to come back and prove to yourself, you're always going to have naysayers and doubters, but to prove to yourself that you can be as great as you once was. And, I think everything's just mentally how hard you can push through the adversity to be able to come out on top.
Do you feel like in this past fight and the one against Trevin Jones a few months ago, were you trying to prove something to yourself in those fights that, you could still fight at that level?
It's always me versus me. I know it's a cliched thing to say, but my whole entire life, as a competitor, as a person, as a human, I feel like it's always me versus me. I never fighting my opponent. I'm never in there. Physically, yes, but mentally and emotionally, it's myself. It's inside. Like I have thoughts inside the octagon that, I can't believe that sometimes they go through my head inside of there. You know what I mean? To where I have to um, reset myself to be like, oh, okay, like, hey, no, this is not where we're at. It's not where we're going down that path. We're sticking to the game plan. We're doing our resets. We're breathing. We're staying engaged in what we need to do at this moment. And it's crazy, the intrusive thoughts that you have. Everybody has them. It's like, it's crazy, but it's still it shut off just because I'm in there. I still have to battle mentally, battle myself. Once I defeat myself, I feel like in the fight, like that mentally, I grab the reins, and I'm in the driver's seat. Then it's off to the races, and you see some of those performances throughout my career that you can see me just in the driver's seat doing what I need to do, let my athletic ability, my hard work, my just everything showcase that night.
When you think about that fight against Dominick Cruz that you had, where you were just on fire. I mean, you were dancing. You were evading everything that he was. You were like in the zone, whatever that might be. In sports, that is such an impossible thing to reach. We've seen it a few times in the UFC. What was different about like that Cody Garbrandt and the Cody Garbrandt that had that long, not long, but that losing stretch?
It's that was just a fight that I was ready for. I was excited. That year was amazing. I had momentum. I was healthy, hungry. And that's where I'm at. I'm healthy and hungry. I think that it boils down to healthy and hungry. But I'm such a I'm so full. A veteran of the sport. I'm smarter in a way that I know what best suits for me. Was for me training, recovery, how I approach the fight, how I approach every day. I was a 25-year-old kid just trying to figure things out. And it was like, all right, hey, let's didn't really have any game plan going into any fight. Just kind of went off of just my skill and things like that. So I feel like now, like where I'm at now in my life, I'm so obsessed with not say obtaining that greatness again, because I don't think anyone can ever do a kind of performance like that again, ever. Not even myself. I think it's hard to top. It's hard to top because it's the first time ever I fought for a UFC world title. First time that I was able to dethrone, Dominick Cruz. It was just a lot of things that was first that could go that won't be able to duplicate it again. So yeah, I just feel like a lot of the growth, a lot of growth in the loss is what I would say is different between that fighter and the fighter today.
Might be a little bit of a personal question, but I'm just curious. When you say intrusive thoughts, like what do you mean by that? Like you're in the cage and you're thinking about like, oh, did I leave the stove on? Like what exactly? And again, if you don't want to answer that, that's okay too. Like
Man, anything like, why am I doing this? Like, sometimes it's like, why I'm in this fight? Why do I want to do this to myself? Why do I want to? It's like you have those thoughts, man. Like, I know I'm not the only one that has those thoughts inside the octagon. Leading up to it, breaking like it's everything. It's the mind's a crazy powerful thing. So that's why I think that mental health and seeking help and going to speak to a professional, um, you know, whether you're a professional athlete or not, I think it's healthy for everybody. I mean, look at how the world is. The suicide rate, and just the everyone that's has the mental things going on in their life. I think truthfully, it's sometimes people are so trapped inside their own head that they don't even get to live life. They don't even get to see how beautiful life is because they're so stuck on what goes on in their head. They can't change that negative TV station. They can't change it to a positive. Like you have negative thoughts, you can't wash them out with clean thoughts because they're just so stuck on the negative. And I feel bad for those kind of people. It's tough because I've been there. It's hard. It's hard to really bite down and soul search when you need to. But yeah, I would say intrusive thoughts, just like why things like why are you here? And, thinking about what if you lose and like things in the moment you don't need to be thinking of those thoughts. All you need to be is engaged in what you worked for the last 10 weeks, last 10 years, those kind of things. But like it's hard to really, switch that channel if you don't really know how to. If you don't know how to work the remote, you're not changing the channel.
It's really interesting to hear you talk about this, and I want to talk more about this with you in the future. But I do want to ask you a few more questions now about fighting and MMA, and there's actually one thing that I was curious to hear your opinion on and your advice, because there's a guy that reminds me a little bit of Cody Garbrandt. His name is Ilia Topuria, and he's 26 years old. You know, he's kind of run roughshod a little bit over the featherweight division. He's in a title fight coming up in a few weeks, really, against Alexander Volkanovski. Young guy like you, you know, tattoos, a good-looking guy, star potential, kind of like you when you were 25 years old. It reminds me a little bit of you. Any advice for him going to this title fight and also beyond that?
Yeah, I know. I like Illy. I think he's a great fighter. I think the way, he's condoning his career and calling the shots and going out there and performing. I mean, you can't argue with that. He's going out and putting on performances, and doing it against the top guys. So that's a great fight. I'm excited for that fight. I mean, Alex Volkanovski is just a man. He's so phenomenal, so good everywhere. But so is Illy. I think that it's going to be a great fight. But also, with Volkanovski just losing, when you're a champion, you're so obsessed with winning and being a champion, a loss can really set a crazy fire underneath you. It can just catapult you to the greater heights, surpassing what you thought you couldn't do, or you'd never be back to. So it's a interesting matchup, especially if Volk just taking that late fight against Islam, losing the fight, emotions all up high and done. And I already know you can see Volk is in the training, Ilia's too. Just very excited. But my advice for Ilia would just be just who he is. Don't try to have anyone change you. What's got you here, what's gotten you to the top. You're about to fight for the featherweight title against arguably one of the best featherweights in the world. Just be you and have fun, enjoy it, take it all in. Sometimes it's going to be feel like it goes fast. That week, the fight week, the media, all things you have to do, just sit back and enjoy it.
You called out Deiveson Figueiredo after you beat Kelleher on Saturday. Why is that the fight that you want next?
I think it's a great fight. Stylistically, I love that fight. I think it's a fan favorite for me. I enjoy the matchup, the technical breakdown. It's two former world champions, now in the same division. Were previously supposed to be made in 2020. Obviously, I had COVID. I was going to go down to 125. So there's a lot of rights that make it exciting fight. And I thought of it. It just came to me the week of the fight. I was not overlooking Brian or anything like that. But I wrote down, I think Tuesday or Wednesday fight week, that I was going to knock Brian out in the first round and call out Figgy. I have my notepad at home, but yeah, so I was like, it was just one of those things I wrote down just to have and say in my notes. So it was a great call out. I think that's a great fight. The fans, matchmakers, the UFC, will get behind it. Hopefully, I know Dana said that he's going to announce some more fights in the beginning of the year. I know my manager Ali is all on board with it. I talked to Sean right after the fight. So yeah, hopefully we can make that one happen.
My colleague Brett Okamoto, of course, of ESPN, wrote in his "What's Next" feature after the fight on Saturday. He wrote that he thinks that you should fight Dominick Cruz next. That would be kind of an interesting one, a little blast from the past. Thoughts on that?
That's honestly, that fight doesn't interest me. I mean, where am I supposed to go to do the guy? I mean, going to knock him out this time. That's the only thing that would kind of put a statement, or not even a statement, would top that. But like I said, it's so hard to top that performance. And it's look, I'll fight anybody. It doesn't matter. But at the end of the day, I think Deiveson Figueiredo coming to the bantamweight division, just having a win over Rob Font, I go knock Deiveson out, puts him right back in the title contention, and that's what I'm here to do. That's what I'm. I never want to be, runner up in this sport. It's always be at the top. So I think that fight, stylistically, just everything amounts to, put me back to the top.
That actually leads me to my final question for you. It is about Sean O'Malley, the champion at bantamweight. You guys have gone back and forth before at press conferences, social media, and what have you. And he's the champion, and he's a big money fight, right? And I think that you're also a big money fight, especially if you're continuing on this win streak. How do you get there? And is that a fight that you are excited about possibly getting in the future?
Of course, if Sean's still the champion when it's, my time to punch that ticket again, I would absolutely love that. And if he's not, then if I've got to work my way, you know, to Sean wherever if he loses, if he's ranked, how all these rankings work, they're a bunch of bullshit. To be honest, I think the rankings are like because you're ranked. And this never made sense to me. But that's besides the point.
Me
Yeah, I
neither.
think.
Okay.
Yeah, I think a clash course with Sean is out definitely in the near future. A money fight, that's what it's all about. What is going to bring the most eyes to these fights? I mean, Sean, history. I would love to just go smack him around. You know what I mean? But I think Deiveson's far more dangerous than Sean O'Malley. I truly believe that Sean's, he's got good skills, he's got good things, but Deiveson and is my next adversary that I want in the fight. That's what I'm focused on. That's what I want. If the UFC makes that happen, I know Deiveson said that he's ready to go and like that. So it's all comes down to just getting the contracts over and preparing for that.
Where does the beef with O'Malley come from, by the way?
Dude, honestly, this guy has a infatuation with me. I don't know what it is. It's he's always so jealous. He thinks he does things better than me. When I got knocked out of Sunsow, he was saying that his win over Eddie Wineland was better. Just little things like that. Just so like I said, he's just got an infatuation with me. But I'll teach him some things when that time comes.
Awesome, Cody. Thank you so much, man. Congrats again on the win. Enjoy the holidays when you're in Ohio with your family. So enjoy the next few days, the next few weeks, and we'll see you after the new year, hopefully in a big fight.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks so much for the coverage you bring us, and always great to talk to you.
Thanks so much, man. Really appreciate it.